TLC once again pulled off reality TV gold, ladies and gentlemen. They rounded up 6 marriages that were already on life support, flew the whole chaotic circus to a fancy castle in the beautiful English countryside, and this week's expert diagnosis was dropped. And the problem is, you haven't been outside enough. Move over therapy. Mother Nature is out here curing broken marriages, one disaster at a time. So TLC sent them in the woods. Welcome back to Reality Recaps Unfiltered. I'm Ruby, and this is where your guilty pleasures get the deep dive it deserves. No filter, no sugarcoating, and no pretending any of us are watching this for the therapy. Tonight we're getting into 90 Day Last Resort Season 3, Episode 8, titled The Last Leap of Faith, which aired Monday. 6 couples in that castle. Let me refresh you if you don't know already. We have Paola and Russ, Kara and Guillermo, Shekinah and Sarper, Jenny and Sumit, Thaís and Patrick, and lastly, Rebecca and Zied. And by the end of this episode, one couple has been straight up exiled from the group, and another one is done pretending. So pull on up, ladies and gentlemen. But first, let's talk about the wilderness therapy, because that's the device this whole episode hangs on. The idea is that you take couples out of their comfortable room, put them somewhere physically hard, make them depend on each other, and something honest falls out. And I'll be honest with you, that's not a bad theory. Discomfort does strip the performance off people. The problem is, these 6 couples don't have a communication problem you can hike out of. Paola doesn't need a trust fall. She needs Russ to change. Rebecca doesn't need fresh air. She needs 15 years of receipts to stop existing. So what actually happened out there is exactly what you'd expect. Tired people, no exits, and every single thing they've been swallowing came straight up. Which brings me to Russ and Paola, because this is the one that actually got me. These 2 are franchise originals, like OG members, season 1. They've been married since 2013. And for a whole lot of us, Pao and Russ are the reasons we started watching this franchise in the first place. I know I loved Russ and Pao in the first 90 Day Fiancé season 1. I love that they're back for this. They're definitely the OGs. But this week, Paola is done waiting for Russ to become the man she's been describing to him for years. And here's the part that reframes the entire season. She went and saw a divorce lawyer behind his back. That is not a threat. That is not a bad night. That is a woman who sat in an office on a weekday with her purse in her lap and asked a professional what her life looks like on the other side of this. She already did the math, y'all. She just hadn't told him the answer yet. Now, let me give Russ a fair read, because I think he deserves one. Russ has been the steady one for 13 years. He's the guy who shows up, who doesn't blow up, who absorbs. And there is a real argument that Paola has spent this whole marriage asking a quiet man to be a loud one and then being disappointed that he didn't. That's nothing. You can't marry somebody's calm and then file a complaint about it. But here's where the argument runs out for me. She has told him repeatedly on camera in front of God and beautiful Bristol, England, that this is not a woman who kept it to herself and then ambushed him. Going to a lawyer in secret isn't sneaky. It happens after somebody stops believing they'll be heard. Pao, I really hope that appointment gave you the clarity either way. And Russ, if you're listening, the fact that she consulted somebody and then still got on that plane with you, that's information too. She's not gone yet. And I want to give this its second beat because it's 13 years and it deserves one more take. What Paola is actually describing isn't a man who did something, it's a man who didn't. There's no affair here. There's no blow up. There's no villain. It's 13 years of small asks that have landed nowhere. And that's the kind of marriage to leave, but you can't point at the reason. You can't tell your mother what he did. All you've got is, I asked, and nothing moved. Nothing ever happened. That's why she went to a lawyer instead of starting another fight. She already had the fight. She had it hundreds of times. Kara and Guillermo, and this is the couple I used to explain the whole show. They came into this castle already split, reportedly breaking up even before they landed. And then you watch them together and the chemistry is right there. It never went anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. And then this week, Guillermo draws a line in the sand. And I want to say something that might not be popular. I think Guillermo is drawing a line. And I want to say something that might not be popular. I think Guillermo drawing a line is the healthiest thing anybody has done in this castle all season. Because their patterns have been fight, chemistry, rinse, repeat. That's not a marriage, that's a loop. And a loop only ends when somebody finally says, here is the actual condition. Kara, I'm not reading you for it. You two got put through a very public ringer over the things that couples get to figure out in private. And that's one of the things about being on these reality TV shows. You are being looked at by everybody. Now, Shekinah and Sarper got exiled from the group this week. Exiled from a group therapy retreat. Do you understand how hard you have to work to get kicked out of a support group? And it comes right back on the back of Shekinah going head to head with Thaís in a screaming match that this whole season has been building towards. Now, I'll be fair to Shekinah. She came into this castle reportedly already separated from Sarper, which means she's the only one here processing a marriage that's basically already over in front of 5 couples who still have something to save. That's isolating. Isolated people get sharp. But sharp with your husband is one thing, Shekinah. Turning it into another woman's marriage is different. And Sarper letting it get to the exile level without stepping in. I'll read that again. 3, 2, 1. But sharp with your husband is one thing. But sharp with your husband is one thing. Turning it on another woman's marriage is different, Shekinah. And Sarper letting it get to exiled level without stepping in, that's his choice too. Which brings me to Thaís and Patrick, because they got dragged into somebody else's fire this week, and that was not fair to say the least. Thaís came in here to do her work. And instead, she's the one being screamed at a castle courtyard. And Patrick, this man has spent the season trying to be the reasonable one. And being reasonable in that house is a real full-time job with absolutely no pay. Thaís, you're allowed to not be somebody's opponent. You can just leave the argument, girl. Now, Jenny and Sumit. 15 years, y'all. 15. I'll say it again, 15 years. And their thing this week is still that night out. Jenny accusing Sumit of getting too drunk and everybody going, wait, that's Sumit? Because it is a different Sumit than the franchise is used to. And Jenny is watching a man she has given more than a decade to become somebody she did not sign up for. That's not a fight about a night out. That is a woman doing inventory. And Rebecca and Zied, a trust question again. Oh, good. Y'all, this has been the same conversation since before the 90 days. Rebecca obviously does not fully trust Zied. Zied feels permanently on trial, and neither of them want to move an inch. And I'll say the hard thing. Some couples don't have a problem. They have a residence. They live in the argument. Wilderness therapy is not going to touch that. All right, let me land this chaotic plane. Here's my read on season 3. The format says that this is couples therapy, isn't it? What's actually driving this season is the friction between couples, as you see with Shekinah and Thaís, the exile, the whole house picking sides. That's not an accident. 6 couples in one castle with nowhere to go is not a therapeutic environment. That is a pressure cooker with cameras, ladies and gentlemen. So my ranking real quick, Jenny and Sumit, Rebecca and Zied are leaving together because they've been leaving together for years, and that's just who they are. Kara and Guillermo, I'd bet on now because somebody finally said something true. Thaís and Patrick, fine, they were never a problem. Paola and Russ and Shekinah and Sarper, I think those 2 are already over. One of them just hasn't announced it yet. The Patreon's open if you want more. Fan, superfan, executive producers, and super fans get my full couple rankings before anybody else. The link is in the description. Now, tell me in the comments your response, your opinion. Was Paola wrong for going to a lawyer without telling Russ? Because I don't think she was, and I know some of y'all are going to fight with me about it. Subscribe, drop your take, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Reality Recaps Unfiltered. I am your host, Ruby, and I'll see you next time. Have a good day.